Hello, I'm Jenny Lamorgan from Lean Into Green, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Our guest is Diane MacEachern from Big Green Purse, and I'm going to talk to you about who she is and why you want to listen to her. But first, before we get started, I want to share a little bit about our telesummit for those of you listening for the first time. I'm a green entrepreneur and owner of Green Woman Store, and I want to share more about going green and how it enriches our lives. And I want to share, too, some of the wholeness about going green and how it affects us personally and collectively, domestically and globally, politically and spiritually, and the many aspects that our green lifestyles make on the planet. So our telesummit is about learning from some of the best experts in this field. So let me tell you a little bit about Diane MacEachern. She is an author and a successful entrepreneur and a longtime environmentalist. Her book is Big Green Purse, Using Your Spending Power to Create a Cleaner, Greener World. And she's passionate about empowering consumers, especially women, to use our marketplace clout to protect the environment. She's a green living and shopping expert. Diane's online store, biggreenpurse.com, connects you to natural products that she has reviewed and recommends, products that save you time and money and reduce your exposure to toxic chemicals. You'll find products for your home, your office, your garden, yourself, and your children. Welcome, Diane, and thank you so much for your wonderful website. It's so full of wonderful resources in every area of going green.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here, and I guess we're in the Mutual Admiration Society because greenstore.com is terrific as well, and I'm just really thrilled to know about it.
Thank you very much. So can you start with telling us about going green, and have you gathered a list of guiding principles?
You know, in my book, Big Green Purse, I do talk about sort of 7 principles that pretty much, you know, anybody can follow. A lot of times what happens is we get in the store and we're looking at all these products and we're saying, oh, I just don't know which one of these to buy. And my feeling is that if you know what to look for, that's really important than the brand. And especially in these days now where we realize that the brands we used to be loyal to may have failed us in the green department, I think it's really important to know what to look for. So in my book, A Big Green Purse, and on the website, I do identify what I consider the shopping principles to help you spend your money in a greener and cleaner way. And, of course, number 1 is to buy less. Even though we're all trying to make money or we're all, you know, we all sometimes by spending money, I think that certainly from an environmental perspective, one of the most important things we can do is keep our money in our purse or our pocketbooks. And, you know, consumption is generally driving a lot of the environmental degradation that we're seeing in our communities and in the United States and around the world. So the longer we can use products or the more life we can get out of products that already exist, the better it is for us, pocketbooks, and for the planet as well. So that's really, number 1 is really, you know, to sort of fight this urge for overconsumption and really think about what we buy before we make the purchase.
And I think that's important for us nationally. Certainly we know, I think we're all aware of how we contribute to the overconsumption problem on the planet. So that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Excuse me. I also encourage people to read the label and to read, you know, learn to recognize ingredients that, you know, we've heard so much about so many chemicals that are in a lot of processed products, cleaning products, you know, even baby bottles and lunch boxes and things like that. The products, you know, personal care products, shampoo and makeup and so on. And we've gotten familiar, many of us have gotten familiar with chemical compounds like bisphenol A or BPA or PVC, polyvinyl chloride. You know, there are just a lot of products that don't sound natural, and when you look into them, they're not natural and I really encourage people to get familiar with ingredients. You know, in the book, it's too long a list to go into here, but there are really, 10 or 12 core ingredients that keep showing up in a lot of the products that we put on our bodies or in our bodies that we can easily avoid if we just read the label. And I really encourage people to keep that, to take a look at the list and really just keep that in mind when you go shopping.
Yeah, and it goes beyond our foods, doesn't it? It goes into the other products that we're exposed to, and certainly exposed.
Well, it really does. If you think about women in particular, we put anywhere from 10 to 15 different products on our bodies every day. I'm not even talking about food, but face lotion and makeup and shampoo and suntan lotion and shaving cream and nail polish and all of those things, and they're all made from synthetic ingredients that are more or less threatening from a health point of view, depending on what they contain. I mean, the great news is that there are now so many fabulous, healthy, clean, safe products out there for us to use, and you feature many of them on the Green Woman store, which is really fantastic. So it's a central place where people can go to find a lot of the things that are the best for us. But you really, as a conscious consumer, the choice is yours to make. And one of the things that I argue in Big Green Purse is that every time we make a choice like that, we protect ourselves, we protect our families and our communities, and all of that is really important. The way we spend our money is our first line of defense. But just as importantly, it's the most powerful way that we have to persuade the manufacturers of the products we buy that they need to clean up their act, and that we'll reward them if they do clean up their act. So it's really a win-win situation to educate yourself, make a conscious decision to buy the safest, healthiest products available, and you do well and you do good at the same time.
That's right, and we're lucky to have so many available products to us that are safe and for us and for the environment, certainly.
Absolutely, it's great.
Can you talk about shifting our spending to environmentally safe products and how our spending habits can really make a difference besides the pressure that we can put on producers, certainly? And that's been very effective. We've seen amazing changes coming from especially body product companies. Right.
Well, this spending shifts is actually something that I talk about a lot in Big Green Purse. And in fact, I run a little campaign called the 1 in a Million campaign, and I'm convincing people to make a decision, a conscious decision to shift $1,000 in a year, or basically, about $100 a month, from you're already spending money on to the greener version of that. And does that make a difference? Well, number one, because, again, it just creates a way for you to start integrating the green principles that you care about into your life. And also by making that shift, you often actually end up saving money. There are a lot of people who worry that they can't go green because it's too expensive. But there are just a lot of shifts you can make that are much more eco-friendly and will save you a lot of money, too. The most obvious one is paper towels. Most people who buy paper towels, you could spend $30 a month on paper towels, whereas you could spend $2 a month on a kitchen sponge that would do exactly the same job. And even if you would buy a new sponge every month, you could be saving $28 a month on paper towels. And you're not creating all of that waste. You're not consuming all those trees and the plastic bags that the paper towels come wrapped in, and so on. So that simple shift, say it only saves you $20 a month, it's $240 in a year, it adds up to a lot of money when you do that with other things. Bottled water is another one. It makes so much more sense to put a filter on your tap or to buy a Brita filter or some other kind of a water filtering system, and then use reusable bottles as opposed to buying cases of bottled water. You know, in one month, the money you'd save on the bottled water that you buy would more than pay for a water filter and reusable water bottles. And so it's those kinds of shifts, those practical shifts that actually end up really saving you a lot of money, that are much better for the planet, and they're usually better for your health too. And so there's, you know, in Big Green Purse, we talk a lot about specific shifts that have sort of the triple benefit. You know, they save you money, they're good for the planet, and they're pretty good for your health as well. And I bet what I encourage people to do is, you know, take up your grocery shopping list, and before you go to the store, and just look at places where you may not even realize that you're buying something that's pretty wasteful, and that if you just shift to the greener alternative, you're going to save a lot of money.
And it's interesting how it's all connected. If our goal is to buy a product that's better for our health, it's also better for the environment. And you know, we're all connected. So every time we might buy napkins that are recycled, and that's all. It's all connected. We're not separate from nature, and it's when we step into green, we're benefiting ourselves, our family, nature, all of it. So why do you focus on women as consumers, Diane?
You know, women are the most powerful consumers in the world. We spend about 85 cents of every dollar that's spent in the marketplace. Women spend more money at Home Depot than men do. You know, we're not just buying cheese doodles and diapers and a lot of fancy clothes and makeup. We're buying a lot of cars. We buy tools. We buy paint and home repair, you know, home renovation products. We're buying a lot of electronics. And with all of those purchases, we can shift the marketplace if we choose the greenest available option. So that's one reason. It's just because women are spending the money in the marketplace, and we may as well use that power to make a difference. You know, but another reason is just because it appears that women, by and large, are somewhat more concerned about environmental health and safety than men are. And this is not to diss men, but I think women are just, you know, all the research shows that women are more eager to take steps that will make a difference to protect their kids and their families and communities, and they're more, you know, they're sort of more ready to do it. And so if you take an audience that's really willing and that has the power to make a difference, you can really achieve change. And so that's what I set out to do.
Very nice. On Big Green Purse website, you talk about several reasons behind our changes and where we can lean in a little deeper. So can you tell us a little bit about each one? I'm going to go through the list of how buying organically and locally grown food reduces pesticides in the environment, of course.
Right. Of course, when you're buying organic food, it's by definition has, you know, pesticides and herbicides and insecticides have not been applied to it. And so when you're, you know, again, when you're buying an organic apple versus one that's been sprayed by ALAR or some other nasty organophosphate toxic chemical, you're just saying that you want to live in a healthier, cleaner place. And when you make that purchase, it also rewards the farmer for growing those apples without pesticides. And this is really, you know, I'm not going to say it's a domino effect. It's more like a circle, right? So I decide I'm going to buy that organic apple. The farmer then has a reason to grow that organic apple, grows it with no pesticides, puts it in the market. I buy it. The farmer plants more. So that's, you know, that's really how the market demands. It's sort of, you know, it's a circular pattern of supply and demand.
And so it's not only benefiting our health and the Earth's healthiness, but also the farm workers. That's a key for
Oh,
their health as well.
absolutely. And our groundwater, because these pesticides ultimately end up on the ground and they're going to get down into the groundwater. And then, even if the last thing you buy on earth is an organic apple, people who buy it, they're protecting your drinking water, they're protecting the air you breathe, they're protecting all the insects that pollinate all the flowers that we love. So there really is a little bit of a chain reaction there in terms of the impact that just, the organic purchases have. And it's not just on the fruit you're eating, but it's on the entire ecosystem that's affected by the use of pesticides or not.
Right, including our bee population, certainly.
Oh, yes. And, there's been a lot of coverage in the news about how threatened our bees are. And I know that there are parts of China where so many pesticides have been applied to crops that there are no bees at all. And now farmers are going around, they have to buy pollen, and then they have to pollinate all their crops by hand. Well, think about the labor cost of that and the implication of that. So, yes, I mean, the use of chemicals in agriculture has an impact that affects just about everything else that we count on in the world, the lives that we live today.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. And so regarding our appliances, there seem to be more and more energy-efficient appliances on the market, certainly. How does this help reduce global warming?
Well, most, the appliances are electricity, and electricity, by and large, in the United States is generated coal. A little bit from nuclear power, a little bit from oil, an increasing, still a very small amount from wind, and a little bit from dams and hydropower. But most of it comes from coal. And when you burn coal or any other fossil fuel, you create carbon dioxide. And the carbon dioxide goes up into the atmosphere, creates a gaseous blanket that traps heat inside, between that blanket and the Earth's surface, and that's where we get global warming from. So back to the question of what difference does it make if we have energy-efficient appliances. Energy efficient means they're going to use less energy to get the job done. So it means that, like, an energy-efficient refrigerator will require less coal for electricity than one that's not so efficient. So, it is still possible to buy an appliance that's not Energy Star rated, but it's, in my humble opinion, it's both foolish and irresponsible to do that, because even if you didn't care at all about climate change or global warming, energy-efficient appliances, by definition, use less energy, which means that you're just going to save a lot more money if your refrigerator is energy efficient.
And the refrigerator is a good example, too, because they certainly are energy hogs in our family budgets, for sure.
They sure are. I mean, most of the time a refrigerator is running. Even your heating and cooling system isn't running all the time, but a refrigerator is running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So in that case, you really, for whatever size is right for your family or to meet your needs, you really want to get the most efficient model that you can.
And I know I've heard, too, about leaving our cell phone chargers plugged into the wall. We live in Southern California here, where they've just finally closed down the local nuclear plant. And I heard one report that said if we would all just pull our cell phone chargers out of the wall when we're not using them, it would make it so that we didn't need to build one more nuclear plant. That's how much energy collectively we can all save with these very small steps that we can all integrate into our daily lives.
Yeah, it's a good point, and it's really startling. Part of it is we've just gotten so used to having everything plugged in all the time. But it's not just cell phone chargers, but electronics actually use 40% of the total energy that electronics consume, they consume when they're not on but still plugged in. So that's a lot of energy in everybody. I mean, I'm in my office and I've got 2 computer screens and my laptop and my cell phone and my fax machine and my scanner and printer, and a landline that's hooked up. It's a lot of electronic. And
well, I think it's an example. I mean, so many of us leave our computers turned on when we're not using them. We just close them, and it's not turned off. So we just, if we turn our appliances off when we're not using them, and if we all did that collectively, we would save so much energy, and we wouldn't need all of the fossil fuel energy that's being proposed, certainly. So I think it's a huge area of awareness for all of us, because it's an area that we don't get educated about in the mainstream. So we're encouraged to buy, certainly, but the energy efficient aspects of unplugging things when we're not using them.
Well, I mean, fortunately, technology is making it easier for us to do the right thing. So you can plug your appliances into a power strip and turn the power strip on and off, and that will reduce significantly the amount of energy the appliances are using when you're not using them. You can't do that with a refrigerator, and you can't really do that with a stove, but you can do it with a microwave, you can do it with a coffee pot, you can do it you certainly can do it with your office electronics. And yeah, it's certainly able to a lot of energy and money, and it would help clean up the air because we're using less energy. So it's just a win-win situation.
I agree, and it's easier to do it in the office, certainly. We have some power strips in our kitchen, and that works too. So I'm glad for you to talk to us about that. Now, when we talk about phthalate-free cosmetics, can you talk about what the effect these phthalates have on our bodies and on our children, really, on our health? Men, women, children, all of us.
Yeah, there's a lot of research that links phthalates to problems in our reproduction system, birth defects, attention deficit disorder, those kinds of things. And the problem with phthalates, and that's spelled P-T-H-A-L-A-T-E-S for people who aren't familiar with it, is that they're sort of like synthetic hormones in a way. They really mimic, chemical structure mimics the hormones that we already have in our bodies. And so when we use them into our bodies synthetically, it sort of throws our whole natural system off kilter. And because so many products, shampoos and makeup and soap and all these things contain phthalates, even though each product contains just a tiny little bit, when you're using a lot of products day after day after day, you end up actually using quite a bit of the phthalate. So one of the things that I certainly look for if I am buying anything that I'm going to put on my body or, use for my kids are the words free. And it just to know that, the product does not contain these they're called endocrine disruptors. And I just don't need those, and I don't think that we need those in the product. There's certainly so many products on the marketplace now that don't have them, that there's no reason to include them at this.
That's true. And I think, if we think of it as every time we're using a bar of soap or a shampoo or a body lotion, that we're taking an estrogen pill, basically, because the phthalates, they mimic the estrogen molecularly, and our body takes these toxins to every place in our body that we would ordinarily take the estrogen that we naturally produce. So it certainly increases health issues, and I think the health issues and the health budgets of families and states are such a national problem. So,
well, the other issue too is that, especially when we're talking about soaps and things that wash down the drain, that we're finding, scientists have been doing research on the way the chemicals have been influencing animals in the wild. And I'm talking about fish and birds and frogs and turtles. And you've probably seen the news reports about these, fish that have both male and female sex glands on them, or turtles that can't, or frogs that can't reproduce, or there was even a story about alligators down in Florida that, these animals that have been since prehistoric times, but their populations are being impacted by all the synthetic chemicals that are washing up in lakes and things where they live. They eat food that's in the food chain there and are drinking that water. So even if we think, oh, that's not going to hurt me, there's a whole wild world out there that these chemicals are getting into, not just our drinking water and groundwater, but in rivers and streams, estuaries and tributaries, and they're having a real impact on the animals that we love so much that are all trying to eke out their existence there.
And on reproduction in general, for all species, really.
Yeah, yep. And again, I think we're still getting back to the point that the products don't need those chemicals, and there are lots in the marketplace now that don't contain those chemicals. And when we purchase those products, we're protecting ourselves and the world that we live in.
Thank you. So fair trade is another big piece of going green, and it's left out of a lot of the conversations. But if you can educate us about fair trade, and you have one example of buying shade-grown coffee protects the rainforests.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of fair trade products because fundamentally they help ensure that the people making those products are being treated in a fair and humane way, that children aren't involved in making the products, that people are receiving a fair wage for the work that they do. And so I just think fundamentally, even if there weren't an environmental benefit, I would support fair trade because it is the humane approach to commerce. But often what we find is that fair trade manufacturers are also very environmentally aware, and we see a lot of fair trade product manufacturers who make products out of recycled materials. And part of it is because the materials that are easily available to them, and part of it is because they also seem to have a heightened appreciation for the role they play in the natural world. But then there are other products like shade-grown coffee, for example, where, in fact, the benefit to shade-grown coffee is that it's a more natural way to grow coffee, and you need fewer chemicals, herbicides, and pesticides, and so on to produce the coffee plants and to get the coffee beans. And so often that means that instead of growing coffee in the sun on great big plantations where they have to use a lot of pesticides, you've got smaller operations that are fair trade and environmentally responsible, because it seems like that combination of awareness and appreciation leads to the most productive and profitable coffee operations.
And again, that's another example of small farming and how much more sustainable small farms are.
Right. But what ends up happening is that some of these things succeed at a small scale, and then the larger companies realize that they're leaving money on the table by doing business in an irresponsible way. And we've certainly seen this with a lot of other companies that end up creating a new product line that is organic and fair trade, or they start shifting their existing product line to organic and fair trade practices. And that's ultimately what I'd like to see happen. I'd like to see the trends move. This is sort of the up theory, right? It starts at the small level, but ultimately what we really want is for every manufacturer to be more responsible.
Right, and I think it is happening with the larger corporations, again, from consumer pressure. But I think that was something that we didn't foresee happening, but I do see those changes coming, and it's good news for all of us, really. It's good news for the economy as well. So Diane, how do we shop greener if we have children and pets? That brings a whole nother, I think, another motivation, certainly, for our families to shop greener, and also challenges.
Well, I raised 2 kids in a pretty green environment, and I have 3 pets. So I guess I've done it on both levels. And I think, with children, as adults, we just made the decision that we were going to offer them less processed or unprocessed whole foods and organic foods, and we were going to take them to the farmer's market with us when we shopped and, point out information on labels. We've always bought organic milk, and we've just talked a lot in our household about the importance of organic milk and organic food and buying locally and all of those things. And I would say that it hasn't been a challenge for us at all. I mean, kids are really always eager to try something new until, their taste buds are changing all the time, and they, I think they're very open. I mean, I think it's not, that's ideal. The ideal time to teach them how to make the best choices, the healthiest choices, is when they are children. So I have found, at least on the food front, that it's been very, very easy. The biggest challenge, I think, with kids is on the stuff front. They see manufacturers, advertisers, from the time kids are, in the womb, they're trying to turn them into consumers. And so I always found that the biggest challenge was trying to teach responsible consumption, because they'll see on television or stuff that their friends are getting, and they want all that stuff too. And to try and teach kids how to be satisfied with less rather than more, I do think that is a challenge. And I think the trick is to not make it seem like less, but to make it seem like better. And, parents need to be creative and committed. And I also think, good examples. I mean, I don't think a parent can be saying to a child, you can't keep buying new stuff, but the parent keeps buying new stuff. You know what I mean? It seems like it has to be an ethic for the family. But if it is an ethic for the family, then I think you've got a better chance of succeeding. With pets, I don't go overboard on my pets. I mean, I do wash my pets with, a soap that's got a lot of natural ingredients with it, but I don't wash them too much. And I do get my pets, vaccinated against rabies and that kind of thing. But I don't know. I think pets are actually, there are tons of pet care products that are available now with whole grain foods. If you want to give your pet some grain, and otherwise, you can get organic meats for them. And, we've got natural-based toys for them, and toys made out of BPA-free rubber and that kind of thing. And pretty much any product that you'd want to get for your pet, you can find in a natural version or something that's made from recycled materials. It's also pretty good for them.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but pets, they've got those toys in their mouth all the time, just like children do. So.
Yeah, they sure do. And, for a scratching post for our cats, we've got boxes that are made from recycled cardboard, and they scratch the daylights out of those, and we've got scratching posts that are made from recycled carpeting and then jute on sort of on a stake, and they just tear that up, and they're pretty good. We don't use any synthetic fragrances in our house, not for our pets and not for air freshener and not on ourselves. So that's one easy way to protect your pets, certainly, from synthetics. The other thing is that we don't use a lot of sort of, hardcore chemical cleaning products in our house. There was actually a study that was done about hyperthyroidism in cats, and it was linked to cleaning products that people were using on their carpets. And we just don't use that. I send my carpets, I've got hardwood floors and then throw rugs, and I'll send those throw rugs out to be clean in a water-based process, but I don't use harsh chemicals on them, and I think the animals are pretty healthy.
It's interesting what you say, because I know so many pets that are on thyroid medication.
Oh, that's
it's not just humans that are on thyroid medications. It's so many of these animals. So that's an interesting piece.
Well, and I think if people have wall-to-wall carpeting, obviously you can't do it, and then you've got to look at how you clean your carpeting and your furniture. But now you can, there's a steam cleaning method that is very effective, and you don't need a lot of nasty chemicals to get your furniture and your rugs clean. And I think whether you've got pets or little, toddlers and babies that are crawling around on the carpeting, it's the same kind of thing. You just don't want to expose them to those chemicals where they're just really breathing them in. And, like with a cat, they're constantly licking their paws, and a baby's constantly sucking on her fingers. And so the healthier the cleaning products are that you use, also the healthier your children and your pets are going to be.
And I'm sure you've got resources on the Big Green Purse for cleaning products and things.
Oh, I do. I mean, I'm actually a big fan of using liquid soap and baking soda and water, and you can clean just about anything in your house with those three ingredients. I use a organically based liquid soap that has no artificial fragrance in it, and it cuts grease. And I use baking soda or sometimes Bon Ami, which is just pulverized rock. It's fragrance-free. And it's cheaper to put those things together, and they're very, very effective. They clean just about anything in your entire house, whether it's the bathroom or the kitchen or the living room walls or something on the floor. You've just always got cleaning products at hand if you've got those ingredients in your house.
And I think the cleaning product area is a good example of how we can really save money by going green.
Oh, yes, and stay healthier. These quote-unquote cleaning products that contain these nasty chemicals and synthetic fragrances, there are a lot of people who finish cleaning their house with this stuff, and then they've got a headache because they've been inhaling these chemicals for a couple of hours while they've been cleaning their house. And you'll just feel better. The house will be actually cleaner if you just simplify the ingredients that you're using to get the job done.
That's right. How to stay healthy and keep the environment healthy at the same time.
Yep.
Well, is there any other special jewels on your website that you'd like to share with us and in your book?
I would just say that the big message of Big Green Purse is that you do have the power to make a difference, to protect yourself and your family and make the world a better place. If you just take a few minutes to make some conscious changes in how to spend your money and think about what you buy. And once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy to do, and you find yourself becoming a very conscious shopper instead of a reflexive shopper, so instead of going to the aisle and just picking up what you normally pick up, take a minute to stop, look at what's available. Again, on biggreenpurse.com, tons of suggestions for you. Or on the Green Woman store, there are tons and tons of great options for you. And it's and when you tell your friends about it and your family and spread the love, and you'll have a pack and save yourself a lot of money and feel a lot better, I think.
That's right. That's right. I would like to finish with this wonderful quote by Diane. She says, "Women must act intentionally, collectively, and with the full force of our purse power behind us if we hope to leave our children and our grandchildren a better world." Tell us again, what is the percentage of spending power that women have?
85 cents of every dollar.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, Diane, for being with us today and for your commitment to the world and our families and our economy and our environment and all the great resources that your Big Green Purse website and book make available to us. We have links available for our listeners to biggreenpurse.com and to the book page and to the 1 in a Million campaign for anybody that wants to sign up and join on that. It sounds like a wonderful way to begin making a commitment. And then to your blog. Tell us a little bit about your blog.
On the blog, I really try and do reviews of current products that are in the marketplace and offer lifestyle tips to help provide some guidance on things people can do to make a difference.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Diane MacEachern, and to all of you listening for taking the time in your day to join us. This is a journey. It's a personal journey and a collective one. And you may want to invite your family and friends to join us as well. Our experts provide a wealth of information as well as tips and tools for going green. We hope that you'll join us on every single call. Every morning we will send you an email with a link for the interview of the day, and we hope you'll take time to make leaning into green a priority in your life. And I hope we've inspired you today to go green in many new and rewarding ways. Thank you, Diane.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And thank all of you, and thank you for listening. Stay tuned.